1 week from the Masters, which means it is Valero Texas Open week. In this video, we will be looking at the stats to consider, a course preview for this event, and also the odds across legal sports books and which names are popping in my model. Steven Andrus here from thelines.com, and let's get started here. Stepping in this week for John Hasselbauer, who's coming back from cross-country travel. So here is his tournament preview at thelines.com for the Valero Texas Open. You can find his PGA Tour previews each and every week just by going to our odds tab under golf, and you'll find John Hasselbauer. For the Valero Texas Open, everything you need to know about TPC San Antonio, the undercard before we get to the first major of the year, the Masters next week. And of course, we will have extensive coverage, betting coverage for the Masters at Augusta National. But first, the favorites for the Texas Open, and not exactly the strongest of fields, with a lot of golfers already heading to Augusta National to get some extra prep in. We see Rory McIlroy, a single-digit favorite at the top of this board at plus 750 at DraftKings, plus 700 at FanDuel. The other headliners in this event, Jordan Spieth and Hideki Matsuyama. And then when you're seeing names like Corey Connors at short of 20-1 and Abraham Answer short of 25-1, that pretty much tells you the strength of this field. It is not exactly a strong field. 5 players from the official World Golf Rankings top 20 have entered the Valero Texas Open. And we mentioned some of those names there with Rory, Hideki Matsuyama. Bryson DeChambeau is also playing in this event. And considering he is not among the favorites here, you have to ask yourself if you think he's healthy and if you think he's gotten his game into form. Obviously, there were concerns with what we saw at match play last week with him not advancing out of group play and not exactly playing consistent golf in the matches that he played as well. Introduction to the Oaks course at TPC San Antonio. It is a par 72, 7,500 yards. If we scroll down here, you can see the specs from John. 4 par 3s, 10 par 4s, and 4 par 5s. If you look at the scorecard down here, you'll see both of the par 5s on the front 9 are just over 600 yards. On the back 9, there is a shorter 567-yard par 5, and then the 18th closing hole is also a par 5 at 591 yards. A lot of the holes on this course play over par. I think John mentioned 13 play with a scoring average over par. So, approach play is important here. Tee to green is important here. The greens are Bermuda with POA overseed. It is a Greg Norman and Sergio Garcia course. The historic cut line around +2. And the median 4-round score was just -2 a year ago. 2 years ago in 2019, 2020 canceled because of COVID. It was at 6 under par. Past winners here include Jordan Spieth, Corey Connors, so you can see why they are among the favorites. If you go back a little bit further, Andrew Landry, Kevin Chappell, and Charlie Hoffman. Scroll down here a little bit. We'll see some key stats to consider from John. These are the stats that I've plugged into the model I'm using this week. Strokes gained approach, obviously at the top of this list, always first and foremost in the model that I use this week. I have assigned 30% weight to strokes gained on approach. John also mentions strokes gained around the green and sand saves. I've put those both in the model, combined around 15% weight. Good drives gained, fairways gained. Also, I did about 15% combined for those two. Birdies or better gained and opportunities gained, about 20% for those for me. Par 4 scoring as well. I also added strokes gained on par 5s from 600 to 650 for my personal model this week, based on what we saw on the scorecard for the yardages of those 4 par 5s. You're going to have to make up some difficult holes on the par 4s here. And let's go back up and check the par 3s as well. We're looking at some very long par 3s here, 213 yards, 207 on the front, 241-yard par 3 monster, the 13th hole on the back 9. And then the final par 3 is 183 yards. So that's another stat you may want to consider popping in this week, is strokes gained on par 3s that are more than 200 yards. So let's go down here. And again, the correlated stats that John likes to point out on a week-to-week basis, the top 10 correlated stats with strokes gained total for the PGA Tour versus just this particular event for the Valero Texas Open. And a couple standout strokes gained tee to green. Got to be a good ball striker here to have a chance. Again, strokes gained ball striking, number 2. Strokes gained par 4, number 3. Rounding out the top 5, birdies are better gained, and bogey avoidance. Another stat you might want to consider popping in this week is bogey avoidance. Let's look at the odds across legal sports books here. And beyond the favorites, interesting to see that Bryson DeChambeau in such a weak field is 28-1. I can certainly understand people that might want to play that based on just the number alone and based on this being a weak field. This is not, I don't believe, a course, and John can correct me if I'm wrong, but the fact that he has fairways gained and good drives gained in his model tells me that accuracy is far more important than bombing the ball in this course, similar to what we saw at Austin Country Club for the match play a week ago. So this doesn't seem like a course that Bryce can just overpower with his distance potentially. And even before the injury, with the changes in being able to use green books and he just wasn't putting well either. One of the strengths that we've seen with Bryson over the past few years is just his diligence and attention to detail and understanding the greens ahead of time. But without those greens books, he wasn't putting well even before the injury. So I think there's just a lot of flux and change and factors going against Bryson right now. But if you just want to add him to your card based on a 28-1 and a weaker field, I couldn't argue against that. He won't be on my card, though. I'm going to try to beat him. I will share with you here before we wrap up a couple of names based on the stats we discussed that are popping in the top 10 for me this week, both over the last 50 rounds and also over the last 36 rounds. In no particular order here in terms of who was the highest, but 4 names that stood out near the top there. The first is Adam Hadwin, and if we can find him here on the board, as I record this here on Tuesday morning, best available price looks to be 40-1 on Adam Hadwin. Another name that stood out to me, if we go a little bit deeper down the board here, is Luke List. Won the Farmers Insurance Open. He was in the top 5 of my model over the past 50 and past 36 rounds. 60-1. Admittedly, I've lost a lot of money on Luke List. He often finds his place near the top of the models on any given week, and he happened to pay it off at the Farmers. I'm a little skeptical that he can win twice in the same season, but I guess if he was going to do it, a weaker field like this would potentially be the place to do it. Just right next to him, Mito Pereira, another name, talented player coming over from the Korn Ferry Tour this year. I think he's taken a little bit of time to round into form. He went on, I think, a month-long honeymoon after he got married. Good for him for doing that. 60-1 available as well on Mito is the best available price. And just scrolling down the board here a little bit further, there's Ricky Fowler at 66-1, if anybody's interested in that. A couple names that I've seen discussed this week. Charlie Hoffman has past success here, kind of a horse for the course angle, 75-1. He was as long as 100-1 at the start of the week. I just don't think he's playing well, to be honest with you. I think he's playing pretty crappy, to be honest with you. So you're really banking on course history there on that one. Wasn't in the top 10 for me, but Thigala has been playing really well this year, and to get a 75-1 on him, I'm going to be tempted to take that number as well. And just want to scroll down here a little bit further, see if there's any other names that stand out to me. He didn't surface in the last 36 rounds for me, but he did in the last 50 rounds surface for me in the model. Ian Poulter, you can find him at around at 90-1 right now. And which book is this for Poulter's 90-1? PointsBet. So 90-1 on Poulter at PointsBet. Any other names down here as we go deeper that I want to highlight? Matthew Neesmith wasn't in my top 5, but he was in my top 10. 100 to 1 still available on him. So just an idea of some of the names that were surfacing for me in my research and modeling this week. I don't think there's anybody with shorter odds that popped as much for me as those guys. Obviously, Rory McIlroy was at the top of the model I'm using this week, but just hard to pay plus 750 on him. I understand the price, but it's a golf tournament. I'm going to look to go elsewhere. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight here of a couple of names to look out for. Even if you don't want to play them in the outright market, maybe you can find some good value in the top 5, top 10, top 20 area, or maybe even in some head-to-heads as well. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope that helps you get started in your research for the Valero Texas Open. If you haven't already, join our Discord channel for golf. In the top right corner here on thelines.com, you'll always find our little Discord button. You can press that. It'll take you over to the free invite into our Discord channel. And join us. We're talking golf every week. Our staff is sharing who they're betting on, bouncing ideas off each other, having a lot of fun Sunday sweats throughout the season. Happy to report that I have 3 outrights this week and had a heartbreaking loss of Kevin Kisner in the Dell match play a week ago for my 3rd runner-up on the season to go with those 3 outrights. So we're just getting started here as major season is quickly approaching, 1 week from the Masters. And if you're a golf fan and you like to bet on golf, I hope you'll join us here for the 2022 season. It's going to be a lot of fun. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let us know in the comments who you are betting on in the Valero Texas Open. John Hasselbauer will be back on Wednesday on thelines.com with his betting card for this tournament. And of course, stay tuned for next week. We're going to have a great Masters week here at thelines.com.